welcome to Sky by Day. Just waving to Patrick Anthony there. My name's Tony Blackburn.
My name's Jenny Hanley. We're pleased you could join us, stay exactly where you are for the next hour. We have Noddy Holder on our programme, Slade, #1 this Christmas and, oh, all over the place.
Yes, indeed, under the heading of Jive Bunny, of course, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. James McGovern, our legal expert, will be with us, and, of course, you saw me waving to him, and he'll be with us very shortly. Patrick Anthony, awaiting in the kitchen. Hello there, welcome back to Sky by Day. Nice to have you with us on this fabulous Friday, and we've got Noddy Holder with us from Slade, of course. Noddy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tell me something, you're one of the very few groups from the 60s who still have exactly the same lineup as before.
Yes, we formed in 1966 and we've still got the same 4 members.
But how is that? Because, I mean, is it just because you all get on very well together? Or
we do get on well together, but we don't mix socially. I think we just work together. We very rarely go out with one another, so it keeps us fresh for when we get back together working.
Has it always been like that?
Yeah, more or less, always been like that. Well, in fact, the last 18 months we've had a part. We haven't worked together for 18 months because being together for nearly 24 years, yes. We thought we were getting a bit stale, so we're all off doing our own thing at the moment.
Yes, I heard you on an interview. You're doing something different.
I'm doing my own radio show in Birmingham on Extra AM and my own radio show in Manchester on Piccadilly. All about the 70s.
What are these? Are you just DJing?
DJing, yes, all about the 70s, and I do all news clips about the 70s and tell stories, some of the naughty stories that happened about bands in the 70s.
So you let out some secrets
I
about
certainly do.
Oh, I say.
It's all good stuff.
What made you suddenly become a DJ?
Well, first of all, I did a special for Piccadilly Radio. They asked me to do a 60-minute special on Slade.
That's in Manchester, of course.
In Manchester, yeah. And that went down really well, and they said, do you want to do a 6-week series on the 70s? And I said, yeah, and I did that, and it was really successful, and I've been on there for 15 months now.
That's is that once a week? Or?
Once a week, yeah.
Or what?
It's a long 6-week series.
It certainly is.
How did you actually get together? Were you students together, or you
No,
met
we all
in the
came
pub?
from the same hometown, Wolverhampton, in the West Midlands, and Dave, the guitar player, and Don, the drummer, they were in a band together, and I was in a different band in the same town, and their band split up, my band split up, and we formed a new lineup, and we've been together ever since. You're
celebrating your 25th anniversary. It's funny, I thought you'd been going longer than I had, but actually not. That's what I really mind last
Nobody's been going longer than you.
But we came along about the same time in the early 60s, which we'll talk about a bit later on. But are you going to celebrate anything particularly? I mean, the 25th anniversary is a very special one. Well, are you going to do anything special?
We'll certainly bring out a hits album. None of our music has come out on compact disc yet, and so we'll be releasing a lot of compact material within the next 12 months or so.
Is Happy Christmas Everybody going to be on that one?
I'm sure it will be.
Because?
It's been its 17th re-release this year, well, last Christmas.
And #1 again.
Yes, on the Jive Bunny version.
Yeah. How does that sort of a record get together? Do they have to phone you up and get your permission?
Yeah.
I'm supposing you
And then we agree a price.
Oh, then you agree a price. Right.
That's the first concession.
Oh, I see. But how can they go on tour? This is what astounds me.
But they do. They go out and do gigs. They actually, from what I gather, they go out and go on stage, play the 2 or 3 hits and throw T-shirts to the crowd, sign a few autographs and get people up on stage doing silly things, and it's all good fun gig.
Are you going to tour around together again?
We possibly will. Yeah. We're talking about doing a brand new album this year, and if that album takes off, we'll obviously go out on the road. But
you don't actually go out on the road very much these days, do you?
No.
What's the reason for that? Are you just fed up with doing that, or?
Well, basically, I think we just felt we were getting stale at a certain point, going around doing the same gigs and people expecting the same sort of show, and after you do it for 20-odd years, you get a bit tired of the same thing all the time. Of course, we're getting a little bit older now. We can't stand the pace anymore. The legs don't hold out that much anymore.
None of us are getting older. None of us are getting older. We're going back in time.
There's a new record that's
I see you've got your earrings back on.
Oh, yes, yes. I said
when we met, her earrings dropped off.
Oh, really?
I have that effect on people.
Yeah, wondered what else might happen. Now, you are particularly keen, I believe, which amazes me, on the Everly Brothers and a new group called Blessings in Disguise. Can you explain this keenness to me?
Well, that's Dave Hill's band. He's off doing a solo album at the moment, and he's using different singers on different tracks on the album. He's asked me to do about 4 tracks for him, singing. And one of the songs I did for him was Crying in the Rain, the old Everly Brothers song, and he's brought that out as a single, and he's called his band Blessings in Disguise.
So that actually is you then singing on there?
It's me
with
singing,
Dave.
but it's Dave's band.
Yeah. How about your own songwriting? Because you not only write the songs, but also...
Myself and Jimmy Lee
yeah,
wrote all the songs for Slade.
The spelling is very strange on some of your records,
Yeah.
isn't it? I mean, is this because you're not particularly good at spelling, or what?
Well, partly, but partly we wanted to do something different, and this was going back to the early 70s, and we actually spell the titles of the songs.
Give us an example of one or two.
'Cause I Love You,
Course,
C-U-Z.
Yeah.
Come On Feel the Noise, C-U-M, and Noise, N-O-I-Z-E.
You can't remember the misspelling now.
And it's how people used to write in the Black Country. It's our dialect. We used to write on the toilet walls that way.
But you got into trouble with mums, particularly, and educationalists who
The
decided...
BBC actually did a documentary back in the early 70s, and they used our spellings as the wrong way to spell, but about 2 years later, they were teaching it in schools, phonetic spelling.
Phonetic spelling. You proved them wrong.
The interesting thing is, I don't know if you're watching Top of the Pops last night, and they had a group called the Choir Boys on, who are meant to be terribly outrageous and this and that. And you look at them, and they're nothing next to some of the groups in the 60s. And
Who's saying that he's outrageous?
Well, yes, they were indeed known as to be very outrageous in the early days.
I think pop music's always a rehash, though. I think every 5 years it goes in phases, and the new generation of kids and new bands come along, but they're just rehashing what's gone before. But the new generation of kids haven't seen it. I think that's why Jive Bunny was so successful. I mean, people sort of knock their records, but they've been very clever because they've put songs together like Little Richard, Evelyn Brothers, Chubby Checker, things that we got off on in the early 60s and thought, oh, they sound fabulous. But the new young kids, they've not heard those singers with the feeling and the guts of Little Richard before, and so it's having the same effect on those kids, and that's why they're going out and buying the record.
How about your own songwriting now? Are you still taking part in that?
Yeah, we still carry on writing. We stockpile material because a lot of people cover our songs. We've had quite a lot of success with American bands covering our songs, and so we still keep churning them out.
You got into trouble with one of your songs called Gypsy Roadhog, didn't you?
Yeah.
In fact, it was doing very nicely until some bad publicity happened. Tell us about that.
We'd written this song called Gypsy Roadhog, and it was going up the charts, and Blue Peter asked us to appear, and we went on Blue Peter, and it was went out live, and the next day in the newspapers, the song was all about a cocaine dealer in America, but it was actually an anti-drug song. And the next day in all the newspapers, Keith Richard had just been arrested for cocaine, and there was all things about in the paper about using silver spoons and everything. And Blue Peter, there was a line about a silver spoon in our song, and Blue Peter went berserk when they found out the song was about cocaine, but it had already gone out then. But Radio 1 banned the record, and it sank without.
Well, that always makes it #1 if Radio 1 bans
well,
a record.
it didn't with ours.
Well, it didn't with that one.
No, not with that one. It didn't work with that one.
Bad news.
How about for the future then? I mean, have you got anything that you would particularly like to do? Because you must have achieved most of the things you want to do with Slade now.
I think the one thing that Slade would still like to do that we haven't achieved would be to get a #1 record in America. I mean, I don't know whether it'll ever happen now, but it's the one thing that we haven't done. One of our songs has gone to #1 by another band, Come On Feel the Noise by Quiet Riot went to #1 there, but we'd like to get a #1 off our own bat. But
are you recording together still?
we will be. Later in this year, we're planning to do a new album.
And are you planning to do a tour?
If the album does okay, yeah, sure.
So it's up to the audience, it's up to
the punters.
Right.
I'll tell you what we would like to do, if you stay with us, and at the end we'll talk about the 60s, because the 60s was a fascinating era, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, all of you who don't remember can learn
I can't really
something.
remember it that well. I was only young.
We were all young. But anyway, thank you for the moment,
Thank
Noddy
you.
Holder. We will look forward to that record, that LP coming out. Actually, is it going to be compact disc or LP?
It'll be both.
Both.
Oh, yes.
This
These
is
days,
wise
you've got to
after
have both
yesterday's
these
news,
days, haven't
yes.
Actually, we have got a compact disc version of Happy Christmas, Everybody. It came out for the first time this year, didn't it?
This year on compact,
Yes,
yeah.
indeed, yeah. And it'll be coming out next year as well, so
And
if you
the
missed
year
it this
after,
year,
and the
it doesn't
year
matter.
after, and the year after. Got to keep the bank manager happy.
Of course.
Well, Noddy Holder, we'll see you later
thank
on.
you.
But meanwhile, we have to have a break. And we'll be back answering your legal questions with James McGovern.
Welcome back to Scotland.
Hello and welcome back. We've been rejoined by Noddy Holder and James McGovern. And in today's newspapers, it has the takeover from Sir Norman Fowler is Michael Howard, who's going to be the new cabinet minister, and his wife is Sandra Paul. Do you remember the model, Sandra Paul, from the 60s? And it made me wonder, Noddy, I mean, very famous in the 60s and still. What do you miss from that time, from the 60s?
Not much, really. I don't really miss that much, no. I think 60s was a much freer time. People could actually do what they wanted, and I think during the 80s certainly advertising has really got to everybody. Everybody's got to have the biggest and the best, and which I didn't think was the case in the 60s.
It was a revolution though, the 60s though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think everybody wasn't after the material things in the 60s all the time, whereas in the 80s I think that's the way it's
But I think the youngsters were heard more in the 60s, weren't they, with the pirate radio ships that we were
Pirate
floating
radio
around
was the best
on
thing
and,
that happened in the 60s, I think, you know, I mean, it revolutionised
and of course
radio.
people, I mean the groups as well for that matter, because up until then you had the established
Groups couldn't get exposure until the pirates came along. I mean, you had the odd show on, what was it called, the light programme. Luxembourg was the only outlet that pop music had, really, and went till the pirates came along. I mean, it gave rock bands a whole new lease of life.
James, what do you remember from the 60s particularly?
I think I agree with Noddy, the feeling of, you know, less responsibility, not feeling burdened so much. I suppose that's just the price of the years passing, really, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Maybe it is, it's just we're getting old, isn't it?
A good day out in the 60s was to go and walk along Carnaby Street and see people wearing all outrageous clothes for nothing at all.
That's right.
Remember all those bells jangling, the flower power era and things like that?
Yes.
And the loon pants and everything.
But, well, precisely,
Caftans and
Beverly
beads.
Holt, our fashion correspondent, says that the flares are going to come back.
I see the young kids on the street wearing them already.
Will Slade wear them?
Probably not. They might look a bit ridiculous at our age, but you never know.
I still got mine.
Oh, James, I can't imagine you in flares.
I promise you, I still have a pair of flares. I looked at them just the other day when I was looking for the Christmas tree decorations.
Oh, they're there, right?
What colour? What colour were they?
Plum.
Plum.
Of course, what other
nice.
colour?
They say kipper ties as well are coming
Oh, kipper
back.
ties are definitely back. They're already back.
It was a great time. It was a great time for all the festivals as well, wasn't it? I mean, if you think about Woodstock and also
Reading
The Isle of Wight.
Festival.
The Isle of Wight Festival was massive in Britain.
we sailed out. I remember at the Isle of Wight Festival. I went out with a record company. And we had a boat out there, and it was so rough we never got to it. No, we suddenly got out in the middle of the sea. I mean, this represents the 60s. We suddenly got out in the middle of the sea, and somebody, I remember saying, who can actually steer this thing? And nobody had actually been to sea before. But we managed to find the Isle of Wight. You couldn't really miss it.
It's incredible what you put up with at festivals. I mean, there's just mud, and you have to queue for toilets for hours, and there's no food or drink. I mean,
Slade made a great comeback in 1980, was it, at the Reading Festival.
Yeah.
And yet they say they may have to stop the Reading Festival now.
Really?
So do you think they're a good plan or a bad plan?
Well, festivals are great. I mean, they can make a band's career. They have to go out on that stage in front of 30, 40,000 people and prove themselves, and that's the proof of the pudding, I think, is a band if they can play in front of an audience.
Hey, we've got an address to give, by the way. Sorry to interrupt, but we're running out of time. James, that address?
Oh, yes, of course, the mailing preference service. Have we got that captioned down? Is it very there? It is. Mailing preference service, Free Post 22, as in the book, London W1, free of charge.
Right, we're going to have to say more or less peace and power till Monday. Right.
I can't believe it. Noddy Holder, thank you. James McCombs. We will be back on Monday, so have a lovely weekend with Jack Douglas, comic actor.
And Tony McKell will be here, and we're just going to sort of hang out and go to a few festivals.
Yeah, peace and love, man. Cool. Bye. Stay cool.